It was once the beating heart of Manchester United. The talent factory from which Busby's Babes was shaped is the finishing school where the class of '92 graduated with honours. Like Sir Matt decades ago, Sir Alex Ferguson used it as headquarters to run one of English football's greatest eras. The plan to topple Liverpool from its perch was laid here. Here he would patrol his office, looking out of his floor-to-ceiling window at the training ground, ready to punish anyone who failed to make the expected change in an era long before data analysts and filmed sessions. Here he would sit behind a full-length desk took up almost the entirety of his tiny nerve center. In front of the sign that read, AHCUMFGOVIN, never let him forget his Glasgow shipyard roots. And here he would arrive every morning at 7:30 a.m., read papers with breakfast and knock out the fielder for not putting enough water on field. What does Manchester United's iconic training ground, the Cliff, look like today after years of neglect and underinvestment? Cliff, where one of the main buildings is now covered with scaffolding, was the nerve center where Sir Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson planned their trophy campaigns. First used by United in 1938. What did the Cliff's entrance look like in the 1960s? Gary Neville and Paul Scholes on the bench during the match between United and Liverpool at the Cliff. This is where George Best fine-tunes his skills and edits the historic treble. It was once the envy of rivals. They had floodlights before Old Trafford. Cliff is Manchester United. It is engraved in the club's rich history. The role he played from 1938 to the turn of the century will never be erased. Holy Trinity is as United as Stretford End and Duncan Edwards, like 1968 and 1999. But these days, the Cliff is something else. This is a crumbling, neglected relic. It's an afterthought. The building, where the spell was cast, the post-Munich reconstruction designed, and Ferguson's phone-ringing hands-free, is now surrounded by scaffolding. The guys from United's younger age groups who still train their joke nervously about the team's pieces falling out. A sign warning visitors not to enter is affixed above the main entrance. It is dated 2014. To some, the Cliff is a clear symbol of the Glazer family's ownership of Manchester United. If you want to know what they think of Glazers and the club, go to the Cliff, one link told me when talking about ongoing sales process and prospects for a new buyer. This should be a museum. A place to be proud of. This is embarrassing and shows that Americans don't care. The Glazer family, the American owner of United, is accused of neglecting the Cliff. The entrance to the Cliff as it is today and one of the training grounds on the field, but you don't have to go far to find evidence that this famous place has been abandoned. An announcement dating back to March 2014 warns visitors not to enter one of the buildings. What visitors to the Cliff encounter these days is broken glass and graffiti on the walls. A view over one of match arenas overlooking the grandstand at far touchline. A chair with its padding removed is thrown out of one of the decaying buildings. The interior one of the buildings is like a time warp after years' neglect. The first impression on a grey March evening is that they were not mistaken. Nothing has changed from days when journalists desperately scrambled in the parking lot for a quote, and local kids did same with just signature pads instead of notebooks. The huge indoor school continues to be in use as an open-air court, barn-style stand that looks like it came straight out of a Lowry painting. But the famous red brick building, which deserves a blue plaque, has to be seen to be believed. The pier surrounds all four sides. There is a large crack in one of the windows at the main entrance. There is graffiti on the walls. An abandoned, torn office chair here, and an overturned chair over there. Concrete slabs on the floor loosen. Window panes are rotting, covered with black mold. Displaced paving stones mark the path to the entrance. The brickwork is chipped and rusted. There are rumors that this was condemned Salford Council says this is not the case, but it may not be too far off. United photo interview with Graeme Hogg, Paul McGrath, Viv Anderson, Chris Turner and Norman Whiteside waiting for their close-ups for the 1987-88 season. George Best with actor Hywel Bennett and actress Penny Brahms during the filming of Percy at the Cliff training ground in August 1970. United coach Johnny Ashton leads a fitness session at the Cliff gym with players George Best, John Ashton and Denis Law among players. A peek through the window shows that the inside isn't any better. Where Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt, and Gary Neville once sat for lunch in a noisy canteen now looks like a zombie movie set. The corridors where Alts walk are empty. A single, faded picture of Old Trafford remained. The reception area was empty, except for a sad-looking red doormat leaning against the wall. Very heartbreaking, said another insider, who did not want to be named for fear of mutual accusation. You've read about Old Trafford and all money that should have been spent on it. The roof leaking, real omission is at the Cliff. This place should be sparkling, looked after forever. It hasn't been invested in years. Just 3 miles north of Manchester city centre. Coaches at Complex would often tell their hopeful youngsters how they had changed in same place as club's legends. How the likes of David Beckham, Scholes, and Ryan Giggs sat down where they once sat. How many great men were once in their place. How they can build their own careers in one of the biggest football clubs in the world with hard work and enthusiasm. Now, those locker rooms are probably closed for security reasons. Brian Robson on the sewing machine in the Cliff Laundry in a photo from 1986. Darren Ferguson reading his father's Only a Champion book on the training ground in 1994 on the treatment table at the Cliff. George Best in a photo from United's 60s. You wonder what families think when they come here to study with their children, an insider added. Most of them may be in the city, where everything is sparkling, and but here they are in this dump. That's not what's supposed to happen for a club like Manchester United. In 2019, amid a gruesome run, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer took his players back to the Cliff for a reality check before the Manchester derby. You might think that Erik ten Hag wouldn't let his team get near it. In 2018, United said they would upgrade the facilities and set up their women's team there. It never happened, and former coach Casey Stoney later resigned to protest his lack of support. When contacted through this piece, they said that far from the famous building, the site and indoor center have been invested and kept to a good standard. Alex Ferguson is at the floor-to-ceiling window where he can observe everything going on at his desk and on the training ground. An ITV Granada documentary went behind the scenes on the Cliff late in the 199,798 season. Ferguson and his team eat while reading the day's papers in the Cliff canteen. They added proposed works that include a new roof, windows and improvements to the indoor arena parking lot. Whether they come true or not remains to be seen. Over the past 2 weeks, tours of Old Trafford Carrington have been given to prospective buyers, including the Qatar bid revealed by this paper, and its rival, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. His team. Both are currently recruiting independent experts to rebuild or renovate projects. Both will want to win hearts and minds before a decision about Easter. It is hoped that if there is a winner in that war, they will care more about this place than what they put in its place. This forgotten United temple needs a new lease of life.